There is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world, and that's why I am on the trail of the Nephilim. Good morning, folks. I'm your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli, coming to you from an undisclosed location somewhere deep in the heart of the Santa Monica Mountains. We're going to be talking about a prehistoric burial mound in West Virginia, and it contains a remarkable secret. This is April 11th, 2025. I want to thank my good friend John for sending this over, and I'll be weighing in on it and just give you the other side of the aisle, a different perspective. But again, I believe that there is a hidden history, and we'll get into that. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Okay, let's walk through it.
Here's the hard truth, folks. Every 6 years, your dollar loses half its buying power. That means a $100,000 savings account today could feel like $50,000 by 2031. And you see it every time you fill up your tank, buy groceries, pay the bills. Prices are up, your dollar is down. Folks, there's a simple way to protect the value of your savings with something tangible and real, something proven. It's gold, an asset that holds its value over time. That's why I trust Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to protect your savings with physical gold or silver. No high-pressure sales, no call centers, just honest guidance, one-on-one support, and transparent pricing. And right now, when you open a qualified account, Noble Gold will send you a free 10-ounce silver American flag bar as a thank you. Head to noblegoldinvestments.com today to learn more. noblegoldinvestments.com. Don't just protect your wealth, preserve its power. Folks, there's always a risk with any type of financial action like this, or I should say transaction, but I'm glad that we invested in gold. And you know what? I'm not a soothsayer here, but it definitely could go over 4,000. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Remember, there's always a risk, but we invested in Noble Gold, and I'm really glad we did.
Here's the article. Prehistoric burial mound in West Virginia contains remarkable secret. Rising above the end of the city's central avenue, the prehistoric Creole Mound, one of the largest burial mounds in West Virginia, has long captivated both onlookers and archaeologists alike. I've been to the site 2 or 3 times. It's actually in Mysterious Mound Builders. You can see it right there. And it's a very large mound. This picture sort of does it an injustice to it. The sides are very, very steep. And in our film, Mysterious Mound Builders, I'm on top and Fritz is on the bottom. And you can see it's in Adena Mound, what they call Adena. They don't know the names of the people who actually constructed the mound, but they'll tell you all about it. And, you know, I get it. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here, but if you don't know the name of the people who built it, then quit making up a name like the Adena, the Hopewell. I mean, how disingenuous is that? Why can't you say, we don't know what these people call themselves, but we're going to call them the Adena? And actually, I think this article actually does that. Over the years, its origins have sparked countless theories, ranging from tales of mythic giants to speculation about a lost tribe of Israelites. In reality, it was constructed nearly 2,000 years ago by indigenous people, the Indians, who were of average stature. It shares similarities with many other mounds and earthworks throughout the eastern U.S. Yet something about the mound is remarkably different. The orientation of bodies buried within is unlike that of other mounds. I may try to get this archaeologist on with us and see if he'll even discuss it. The Creole Mound is the only mound in the area with a central burial surrounded by other burials, he says. In other mounds, burials appear to be more haphazard. Most mounds will have burials that appear to be in random order in terms of directions. And one of the theories about the Adena, especially in Kentucky and other areas of West Virginia, is that burials don't represent a particular Adena population. So what you're getting is a group of people coming together to solidify treaties and other things. It's a way of cooperating and reduces conflicts between the groups. That's complete and utter speculation. I mean, I get that. But why is it when we ask Chief Joseph, he comes up with a completely different deal? Why is it when we actually ask many First Nation people, they all tell us about the giants? Why is it that Sarah Winnemucca talks about the Sitika? What are we looking at here? The term Adena is a modern term used to describe the people who shared common practices and lived in the Ohio Valley region from about 500 BC to 400 AD. So we're looking about, 2,500 years ago, right? It's a long time ago. Their traditions overlapped with those of the Hopewell culture. So I just want to say something with all due respect to modern-day archaeologists. They admit in the article that the term Medina and the term Hopewell, these are modern terms. The point I'm trying to make is we don't know who these people are or what they even called themselves. And then you get the giants, and we'll get into that. Let me continue. Where early archaeologists found at South Charleston, many of the first Virginian colonists to reach the valley in the late 1700s may have believed the mounds were built by a race that predated the indigenous peoples of America. However, scholars now know they were the forebearers of the present-day Native Americans. Why is it that when the Shawnee go into Newark, Ohio, they say, we didn't build the octagon mound, we didn't build the circle mound, it was here when we arrived. So what is the truth? Look, I only have so much information, but, we've gathered it, and that's why we're on the trail of the Nephilim. That's why we have 8 films. And number 9, which I'm actually in post-production, I think is going to show something that we need to have explained, or at least that mainstream archaeologists need to at least look at and provide an answer. It's sort of like the Giza pyramid thing that I reported, where I discussed it with the 2 scientists a couple of weeks ago now, which was, in my opinion, just incredible. Mr. Biondi and Mr. Malanga came on the record. There are 2 satellites which are going over the Giza Plateau, not just one, and they did it numerous times. There'll be a press conference in July, and I'll be blasting that information out so you can sign up for $20. You can get a Zoom link, and you can join and watch the presentation. I know I will be there, definitely. While laypersons occasionally dug into the mounds, a serious archaeological study wasn't performed until 1884. American ethnologist and entomologist Cyrus Thomas spearheaded a survey with the Smithsonian Institute. So it was Cyrus Thomas, just so you know, who basically put the kibosh on any type of artifact that didn't jive with the theory. And it was Cyrus Thomas, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, who stated this on the record, that Native Americans built the mounds. They had just forgotten that they had done so. I'll just leave that statement sit there for a while. All right? Let's continue. Thomas and his team partially excavated the Creole Mound, then owned by the Creole family, which framed the valley after the American Civil War, and discovered 13 bodies interred at 2 different depths. 4 feet below the surface, they found 2 skeletons buried with stone hoes, a projectile point, and stone disc. That could be, and we know this for a fact, that Native Americans did use the mounds that were existing for burials. We know that. So what are we looking at? Was there a culture before them, a hidden race of people? Why is it that from the East Coast to the West Coast, you hear stories about 7, 8, 9-foot giants? Mondo Gonzalez did a deep dive on this with the Smithsonian's own reports. And he found giants that were over 7 feet tall, some of them 8 feet tall. So what are we supposed to do with that? At the bottom of the mound, however, they found 11 skeletons, 10 of which surrounded a central figure. That could have been a sacrificial burial, and we don't have enough information. Thomas wrote of a similar mound in Sullivan County, but most other mound sites in the valley had burials that appear to be randomly distributed. What's interesting about this, there are no pictures as far as I know. And I'm going to put forth that was done ritualistically. The central skeleton was more than likely a giant, and the bodies around it, creating a spoke, may have been underlined, because it's speculation on my part. But we don't know. It may have been sacrificial. The figure in the center is believed to have been a chief or a shaman, someone of great importance, buried with shell beads and copper fragments thought to be a headdress. These customs may go back to the local Adena mound builders, but it hasn't been studied yet, says Maslowski. Artifacts excavated from the mound are now housed at the Smithsonian. I'll just let that sit. Over the years, myths have circulated surrounding burial mounds. One myth is that giants built the mounds. According to the National Register nomination for the mound, a Charleston resident who assisted in its excavation stated that one of his skeletons measured 6 foot 8 inches. However, Maslowski said this was an exaggeration or a miscalculation, possibly caused by the pressure of the earth pressing down on the skeleton over time. Most of the bodies recovered were in poor condition, and none were provided to the Smithsonian. Thomas Jefferson excavated a mound and demonstrated that in the early 1800s. Later on, you get development of myths about the lost tribe of Israel and all kinds of things like that. Look, we don't know. We paid a reward to a gentleman who provided us with information regarding this picture. This was taken by yours truly. Fritz Zimmerman was there. My wife was there. This picture was in the museum as you walked out to the Great Creek Mound. The first museum at the mound was inside the mound. The lower tomb was enlarged and brick walls were constructed. So we see a very large skeleton in the background. We see a man with a stovepipe hat, which the hat would put him well over 6 feet. The skeleton appears to be behind him. So what are we looking at here? And I want to show you what they did. Now, that's the original picture of a picture. You get an idea from this just how big that skeleton in the box is. Then you get this. So when this is the original picture we took, and then later on, it appears to have been, and I don't want to, disparage anybody because we don't have all the facts, but this says something. Is this picture the same as this picture? Look at the top of the skeleton. Look at the top of the head and how close it is to the top of the box. Now look again. Are we looking at two different pictures? Did someone Photoshop it? I have no idea. And we can't, my lawyer has sent emails to the museum asking about this. We have had no reply. That's a fact. I'm not making that up. So then we go to Catalina Island. I was called recently by members of a television show that wanted the picture. And I said, look, guys, I'm the guy that discovered this. That is Ralph Glidden, who is 5'8". In front of him on Catalina Island, you see an articulated skeleton. It's not disarticulated. The bones are all there. So we actually did a deep study on this, and we discovered that it's just under 9 feet. 3 different people looked at the picture, digitized everything, knowing Ralph Glidden's height at 5'8". We were able to extrapolate, the 3 experts were, and put it all around just under 9 feet. So we went back to the museum, Richard Shaw and I, and this was on the wall. I just present this to you. Why would they crop the giant skeleton out of the picture? This is what was there. Why did they do that? Who gave the order and why? I mean, wouldn't it be great if you could actually, come and see the picture of a giant skeleton found by Ralph Glidden circa 1919 and 1921? Wouldn't that be a hook? Wouldn't you have people flocking to the museum to see the giant picture, which is what you see here? Was there a hidden history? Careful. No, why would they crop that? There's the picture. Why would they crop the giant out of the skeleton, or out of the picture? Why would they do that? And of course, when we were there, when we asked the curator, she had no idea. She said, I was just told to put this up, and that's what I did. So you can see here very plainly, there's Richard Shaw. My ex-business partner, Rick, passed away a few years ago, and now my good friend Gil Zimmerman and I are back on the trail, and we will have number 9 in the series out hopefully this year sometime. So these are the museum boxes which I was presented with by the former curator, John Borgina, at the Catalina Island Museum. It's the old museum. It was the one under the theater, the Wrigley Theater was in the round. And I was there we got there in the evening just as it was closing. I basically spent 3-4 hours in there that night, and then the next morning another 3 or 4 hours. And this is what we discovered here. This mound was one of the largest found on the island, 160 skeletons. This was in a hollow. The skeletons were buried about 1 foot deep. Found 3 large stone rings inlaid with money. Also found with 1 large skeleton over 5,000 stone beads. So whoever this person was obviously someone that was highly venerated. Part of a skeleton of men over 8 feet in height had a very small skull. I get it. Ralph Glidden, and I'll just make a comparison here. Isn't it interesting how they call Ralph Glidden little more than a grave robber, but in modernity you get, with all due respect to Egyptologists, aren't they doing the same thing? Aren't they going into ancient tombs and digging them up and taking all the artifacts? Granted, we have the tools now in archaeology. Back then was in its infancy. And some of the protocols that we have today in modernity were certainly not adhered to way back when Ralph Glidden was digging this stuff up. So to say that he was little more than a grave robber, I'm not buying that, because that's the way archaeology was done. His museum was Ralph Glidden's museum, incredibly macabre, and I think he sold it for maybe $5,000, something like that. So there's the picture, the iconic picture showing Ralph Glidden standing in the tomb, and in front of him is a articulated skeleton, a skeleton in situ. And I would just love to know what happened to that. So just to recap here, let me go back. This is the original skeleton inside the Grave Creek Mound. This is a lithograph that somehow found its way out to the causeway that takes you to the mound itself. And Peggy found it, or Fritz found it. I'm not sure which one, but we immediately filmed it, and Fritz is on that film. It's Mysterious Mound Builders, Mathematical Mysteries of the Mound Builders. And we're going to do a revision on Mathematical Mysteries of the Mound Builders. This will be number 9, because the mathematics involved is staggering, is mind-blowing. And I'm not blowing smoke here. We will show it to you once we get that film up. So once again, this is the original picture. Look at the top of the box in which the skeleton is in. So none of that has changed, but then we see this. So obviously there were 2 different pictures. This is the original picture, which we took, and then later on, there was this picture that the museum put up. So my question is this. My lawyer has already written to them. There's been no response. I'm not disparaging the museum in any way. We're not accusing anyone of anything. I want to make that really clear. But all we're asking is, why the disparity? Why is this one picture here with a very large skeleton and the other picture is not? Is it because of the article we just read, that there is a paradigm that has to be upheld no matter what? Again, we're not trying to accuse anyone, not pointing fingers. We're just asking a very simple question. Why is it that the skeleton here is very large in the box, and here it has seemed to have shrunk? Once again, original skeleton, and there's the other one. And you can see something else here. The skeleton's head is above the brick wall that surrounds it. See that? See the brick wall with the gas lights or the torchlight, whatever it is, oil lamps? The skeleton's head is above the brick wall. That's right next to it on the left and on the right. And here, it's hard to see, but you can see it. The skeleton is below the brick wall. So the skeleton is definitely smaller. Inquiry minds want to know. Again, we're not pointing fingers. We're not saying there's a cover-up. We're not saying anything like that. We just want to know why there's 2 different pictures. Can we get an answer? Can we get a witness? Anyway, folks, there is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world, and I'm going to let Ashley talk about our book, Rungs of Disclosure, because remember, for years, we were told that UFOs are nothing more than swamp gas, the planet Venus, misidentification. Now we have witnesses standing in Congress stating on the record that we have retrieved bodies from the crashed craft. What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? Anyway, here's Ashley to tell us all about it.
Hey guys, I'm Ashley. Today I'm excited to introduce you to something extraordinary. L.A. Marzulli's 10 DVD set called UFO Disclosure. This is not just any collection. It's your key to uncovering the hidden truths about the UFO UAP phenomenon. Did you know that UFO whistleblowers have testified on the record that not only have we recovered crafts, but we have also retrieved non-human biologics? Let that sink in. The world is waking up to a reality long dismissed as science fiction. But what does it really mean? L.A. Marzulli and Gil Zimmerman, business partner and co-producer of these documentaries, have spent years uncovering the shocking truth behind the UFO UAP phenomenon. Now, in this exclusive 10 DVD set called UFO Disclosure, LA dives deep into what the mainstream media won't reveal. Close encounters of the first, second, third, and fourth kind, real-life accounts of people who have seen the occupants of these mysterious crafts, abductions, cattle mutilations, crop circles, what is truly happening behind the scenes? 2 films dedicated to the infamous Roswell crash of 1947, exploring the mysteries that have been shrouded in secrecy. And finally, his latest film, What is the Truth? Exploring the new UFO phenomena and the New Age connection. LA has interviewed top insiders Nick Pope, George Norrie, Gary Stearman, Mondo Gonzalez, and more. Experts who reveal why this might be the most significant event in human history. This is the coming Great Deception. Are you ready? Go to lamarzulli.com today and get your copy of LA's 10 DVD set called UFO Disclosure. Or for streaming, go to streaming.lamarzulli.net. Arm yourself with the truth before it's too late.
Before I go, if any of you have information regarding these skeletons or these pictures, or if you're living in West Virginia and you've got pictures from that era, and who knows, or newspaper clippings, I would love to see them. Please shoot me an email at la@lamarzulli.net. And again, all we're looking for is the truth, not trying to defame anyone or point fingers. We just want to know why the discrepancy. Maybe it was a mistake. I don't know. But why the discrepancy? I will close you with my tagline. There is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world, and that's why we are on the trail of the Nephilim. Thanks so much for watching.